Reggio, there is a huge community feel that these children have got ideas to transform playgrounds, public spaces, and their work is displayed all over the city in restaurants, in tunnels, in shops. And it's a very, for Malaguzzi, he really believes that the community needs to embrace the early childhood schools as much as the early childhood schools need to embrace the community. And this is part of our quality standards. This is something that we need to strive for, is thinking about how we actually connect with those community members. What we have to remember is that making children's work visible is one really important element. Amelia Gambetti from the Schools of Reggio talks about, are we respecting the intelligence of children? Is this visible? If we don't believe in their intelligence and if we don't acknowledge it, then how can parents understand the importance of the experiences that we're having with them? And I want to just share with you a concept about, so Malaguzzi and Gambetti have discussed in those two quotes the importance of children being involved and visible in their learning. So how does this relate to supporting educators to understand theory and how they put that in practice? So this isn't a question for you to answer, just something for you to take away and think about. Is artwork around the room making learning visible? And this is a great question to take back to team members, to think about what is it that you're portraying about the children's competence. Now, I found this particular picture. It's of no particular centre. It was just one on the internet. I think, though, it's a good example, though, sometimes of how all walls and string lines and everywhere that possibly can have a piece of work from the children is put up. So aesthetically, some people might say that it looks really beautiful and we're valuing the children's work because we're displaying their artwork. But my question back to educators would be, where is the children who don't do artwork? Where is the work that they've been doing? Why are the paintings so important that they've been framed and put up on the wall? Where's the educator's story and thinking that sits alongside all of these pieces of work that the children have done? We need to think about visually what our environments are saying, and this is where the educational leader can work with their team on what is the message you want to share with your families, what is the message you want your families to understand about the educational curriculum that you do. So this picture, for instance, my first feeling is that they do a lot of painting at this service, and painting is very, very highly valued by the educators. So I would have to think my son, when he was at kindy, never painted to save his life. So if I was a parent in this space, I would be wondering how my child is being valued by the displays that are in the room. So as I said, just something for you to take back and have a really good think about, and have a collaborative discussion with the educators that you work with to see what people are thinking. The important part about collaborative discussions is that they're actually honest. So it's about people saying, well, hang on a minute, let's think about what does it say? What kind of picture does it say? Or asking your families about what they see and what they say. If we're going to stretch our educators from everyday practice, we need to be able to question the thinking behind their decisions. This is part of our role in leading pedagogy. People become clearer when they have had to articulate why they're doing something. One of the tricky parts about being in a position like an educational leader is that some educators will never have been asked about their practice ever before. So you're entering into what potentially could be some scary ground in terms of conflict. It's important to share with educators that the role that you play is that you are about, your job is to question and to get them thinking about what they're doing and why they're doing it. And this is the way that educators improve and continually to grow. What we want to make sure is that those relationships are built in such a way that it's not threatening, that it's an encouraging way of saying things, and also that you have the knowledge to be able to actually talk through some of the conversations with the educators yourself. So I'm going to share with you these two pictures. And my question to educators that would use stencils and or craft activities like the fish there is, what would be the purpose behind this experience and how they felt it showed the children's thinking and the theories that the children have. I still see a lot of activities like this in long daycare centres that I visit through my consultancy. And when I ask educators these questions, sometimes the responses are things like, we're doing an under the sea theme, so this making fish was part of that. Or we're learning about fresh fruit, so I wanted them to paint some apples so that they could learn about that. My question though is, if we look at those two particular pieces of work and we're not stretching an educator, my guess would be the children, what they've learnt is how to stay in the lines. They've learnt that potentially I can't make a fish because my teacher made it for me and I just stuck some things on it. The apple itself is clearly being cut out by an adult because it's around the perfect lines. So it starts to give children a message that whatever they produce may not come up to the expectations of the educators, and so therefore will make it for you and you decorate it. And it's important, as I said, it's no wrong or right, but it's an important concept to reflect on and to think about when you're stretching your educators and how you're asking them to think. Quite often people who are using this type of activity are a little bit reserved on learning about the new theories that are around in early childhood, or potentially might not have done a lot of training. I also want to point out that the National Quality Standards does say that there needs to be a very, very limited amount of stencils used if you're looking at getting meeting quality standards. So stencils are really not necessary for children to use, and I'm going to show you some work of some children that we've been that I'm going to share with you. And so hopefully if you've got educators that are using this strategy as part of their way to get children to share their knowledge, you'll be able to give them some other tips and tricks as to how they can do that. Here's some alternative approaches that can support that theory of children's competence. Last year, our kindergarten children, there was a cluster of them who were very concerned and worried about water conservation and where water went to and how it was recycled. So there was lots of discussion around the idea of a water treatment plant. And over a 5-month, 6-month period, these children spent time researching and investigating what a water plant did, what the components of a water plant was, where the water went, how they did it. They did a lot of experiments, putting together lots of funnels and tubes and different types of boxes and buckets to see how water moved, and then began this process of using the language of drawing to start to emulate what the water plant might look like. And these are some of the drawings of just 3 of the children that were involved in this project for today's session. So the first 2 you can see are done in black and white, and these children had just had one plan that they had put together. The plan on the far side that has 2 pictures is Mia's plan, and Mia was very interesting. So the top drawing was one that she had done herself first, and then after a few weeks more of research and looking at different pictures and books and group discussions about water plants, she then decided that she needed to revise her plan, and the second picture at the bottom is the revised water treatment plant plan that she put together. As you can see, through the research that she did and through the collaborative discussions with her peers and her educators, the 2 drawings have quite a significant difference in detail. The first one has some detail, but the bottom picture has much more detail, and Mia explained it in much more depth. These children then decided that they wanted to actually make their own water treatment plant so that they could try out some of these ideas and theories that they had about how the water can be filtered through. So time was spent with them over the next few months to then put together the Canvas picture that you can see there, which is the group's plan. So looking at all of the individual pieces that the children had done and deciding on some critical elements that were in everybody's ideas and theories, and then drawing together a plan of attack. The bottom picture is the actual water treatment plant. If you can see up here, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but if you can, this is where the water goes in. So there's a step ladder here. This was at our exhibition of work that we shared with our families. So they can pour the water in here. It comes through the filtering tank. This is full of stones so that the water gets filtered, comes down, and then the water is taken out to community. And these houses here are all the children's houses that they build, plus Rosie's early learning, plus the shops that are next to the service. Then they created these bricks underneath, and the water tube actually goes all the way around these houses, and then over on the other side of this table it comes down into a bucket to be recycled so that it can go around again. So I think these are good examples of two very different ways to demonstrate children's abilities. We've got a stenciled apple that has been photocopied and cut out by an adult, and a water treatment plant that 3, 4 and 5-year-olds have made over a 6-month investigation.